Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Amber Rose, also known as the Religious Hippie. You can basically follow me on any social media platform. Just type in the Religious Hippie and you will find me. So today we're going to be talking about men, women, and dating. In the last Q&A kind of episode I did, I complained about how I always lose your guys' questions because I like to put them up on the screen and stuff like that. And y'all came back with a solution and said if you go under archives, it's there with everybody's questions. So you know what? Y'all are a lifesaver. I love you guys so much. Because I had no idea you could actually do this. I had no idea this existed. Now if I could just find it, that would be nice. I post way too much. Oh, here it is. Okay. Alright. So, I basically asked you guys what questions you had about men, women, dating, etc. and y'all delivered. So, we're going to be talking about that. Alright, so we're just honestly going to jump right into this. So our first question is, any tips on how to find/date a woman who is Christ-centered? Good question. So there's a few things to look for in a woman when you're looking to date her. The first one would be humbleness, the second one would be willingness to suffer, and the third one would be modesty. You basically want to base this off of Our Lady, in a sense. You want someone, obviously they're not going to be sinless and perfect like Our Lady was, but you want someone who has her virtues or are practicing her virtues or want to be like her. I would say that's really important. Honestly, there's no real right time to meet somebody. It could happen at a local coffee shop. It could happen in a youth group. It could even happen in your local church, grocery store, whatever it might be. So there's no real perfect time. But I will say, just keep working on yourself. Grow in your faith life. Grow in your devotion to Saint Joseph. I think that is a huge one. And just in general, work on yourself. Make sure that you don't have any debts, addictions, etc. that could, in a sense, destroy anything that's pure, good, and loving in a relationship. So debt is a huge one. That one can really... So debt, any school payments or school in general, if you're in college, you know, do you want to date while you're in college or high school, or do you want to wait till afterwards? Things like that. Make sure that you are firm in your standards and what you want in a woman, and don't lower those standards if one woman shows interest in you, okay? Make sure that you keep those standards because that is super important. Make sure you just have your personal life sorted out, I would say. And the right person will find you if it's God's will. And just offer it up to God, honestly. You could even join a Catholic dating site like Catholic Match or something like that. I personally do not enjoy them. They're not appealing to me, but I know many people who have used it and have found their significant other, spouse, husband, wife, etc. through that app. So it's just whatever you're comfortable doing, honestly. Hopefully that helps though. Okay, question number 2. How should men approach women? I'm gonna have to go off of this from my own experience. I can't really speak for all women. This is just my personal experience, but do not approach her when she is alone. You know, alone as in like a parking lot, parking garage, whatever it might be. If she is completely alone, do not approach her. That'll just scare her a lot. Speaking from experience, even though he was very kind and didn't have any ill intentions, scared the bejesus out of me. Seriously, I was just like, this is how I'm going to die. But no, he was very nice. But the point is, do not approach her when she is alone. It'll scare her. Instead, approach her when she is in a group setting or a social setting in general. So when she's at church, maybe, when there's people around, or at a coffee shop or a grocery store, not in the parking lot, preferably in the grocery store, things like that, I would consider to be okay. But yeah, don't approach her when she's alone. That'll scare her. The next thing is just try to get to know her on a friend basis. Nothing more, nothing less. Just try to get to know her so that she gets to know you too. Do not dive in right away. Don't get caught up in feelings, because keep in mind, you don't actually know who this person is. I'm assuming you don't know who this person is, at least. And so we might have this fantasy in our minds of who they might be and what they're like because we've never actually talked to them before. But it's really important that we actually take the time to get to know them on a friend basis and not just instantly give them a rose and be like, marry me, or go out to dinner with me. Start off on a friend basis and see how it goes. Something I will say from my own experience, no means no. If she's not interested in you, if she's not giving you hints to be like, oh yeah, ask me out or something after, you guys have been friends, leave it alone. Walk away. Be humble about it. Don't cause a scene, because that won't help in any way, shape, or form. And it's not going to make her want to go out with you anymore. It just looks like a grown man throwing a tantrum. So leave it how it is. And if she comes around in her own time, then she comes around. If not, leave it and be humble about it. Same thing goes for women. Don't be pestering him with a bunch of texts every single day. Don't be calling him nonstop, always trying to hang out if he's not showing interest. Move on and find someone who will show interest in you. Okay, so wrapping all of that up, basically, make sure you approach her with the intention of wanting to just be her friend, with a friendship or something of that nature. If the friendship blossoms and you guys decide that after maybe a few months or maybe a few weeks that dating might be okay on both sides, can't just be one-sided, then perhaps you guys can take that step to begin dating. But again, that friendship cannot be one-sided and wanting to date cannot be one-sided either. So just make sure you give her space and time to think about it. Don't rush her into anything. Women, this goes for you as well. Okay, our next question is, how would someone make a long-distance relationship work and thrive? Good question. The first thing I want to say is that it needs to be mutual. You both need to want this relationship to work, and you both are going to have to make those sacrifices in order for it to work. It cannot be one-sided, otherwise it's not going to work, obviously. But the point is that if you guys have both decided that this is something you guys both want and that you both want to have this long distance relationship and are willing to put in the sacrifices and work it's willing to take, then here's some tips. A relationship with God as its foundation will thrive no matter how far apart you guys are from each other. I'm not exactly sure what distance, amount of distance you're talking about, but when possible, surprise your significant other by going and visiting them. Obviously, make sure you are aware of their schedule so you're not hindering them in any way. Like maybe they have exams and you just show up and then they're just like, I have exams, but I really want to spend time with you, and it just causes strain. So make sure you guys plan that. But you can always surprise them and get their schedule from their roommates, something of that nature. So don't be afraid to do that. And obviously try and make frequent trips to see each other. Make it a point to see each other on holidays and things of that nature. And of course, texting is always, an option, but I don't think texting's ideal. I would say FaceTime and phone calls and Skype, those types of things are more ideal than texting. Mainly just because texting, you don't really have that connection with a person, and it's really hard to tell somebody's intentions through text and what their tone of voice is, their emotions, moods, etc. So that can cause some strain if you guys aren't on the same page talking, face to face. Even if it's only over a screen, at least they can still hear your tone of voice and see your face. So try and make time to do a Skype or phone call at least once a week, or more if you want to. You could do it every single day, but at least once a week to discuss your relationship, how you guys are feeling as individuals, where you're at in your spiritual life and your school life or wherever they're at. And just really try to make that effort to really listen to the other person. And by listening, I don't mean just hearing, but actually contemplating what they're saying and listening to them as a person. So I think those things would be really beneficial in long distance relationships. Okay, so this next question, I'm going to try and just tie into each other because they're similar. Can we date non-Catholics, and how to talk about faith if your boyfriend isn't Catholic? Okay, we'll start off with the first question. Technically, yes, we can date non-Catholics. I'm dating a non-Catholic myself. However, the Catholic Church does warn that we should be dating people who are equally yoked, respectful of Catholicism, and are willing to get married into the Catholic Church. My boyfriend is Protestant, and we've had discussions about this topic because my faith is one of the most important things to me, actually the most important thing to me, and I will not get married outside of the Catholic Church, and I will raise our children, if we have any, and God wills it, if we get married one day, I will be raising those children Catholic, and we've discussed it and we've come to agreements and everything like that. However, that's kind of rare, and so it would technically be easier to date inside of your faith, so dating inside of Catholicism. Okay, so as for sharing your faith with your non-Catholic boyfriend, you shouldn't be afraid to share your faith with him. If you are, that's kind of a big red flag that you can't trust him with certain things, and that relationship in general is not going to be truthful, holy, virtuous, or, growing towards Christ. So that's kind of a red flag. But I would suggest getting really good at apologetics. You can check out Catholic Answers. They have YouTube, they have, oh my gosh, they have books, and they have a website. All are great apologetic resources. I would also highly suggest getting a catechism and just learning about your faith more and really growing in apologetics. That way, if he does ask you any questions, you are able to answer it with confidence. Okay, our next question is, when should the first kiss be if you want to kiss before marriage? I want to say here really fast that kissing before marriage is not a sin. However, it can lead to really grave sins if making out ensues and it goes farther than it should. So just be aware of that. That is really important. The next thing is you definitely want to date that person longer than 6 months. 6 months is usually about the time when their true colors start showing and they show their true intentions and what they want from you in your relationship. Some men will start off as being all romantic and friendly and everything, but then turn around and want sex from you or want something more than you're willing to give them. So it's really important that you don't kiss on the first date and that you really wait and give time to see if he is actually worthy of this and if he will respect you, etc. While kissing is kind of different for everyone, I'm not sure how old you are. However, waiting isn't going to ruin anything for you. I honestly, actually, in a sense, wish I would have waited, but I had my first kiss before I came back into the Catholic Church, and there's a whole mess. But it's not going to ruin anything. It's really not. I think it actually, in a sense, is better to wait, just because then that way you have your first kiss with the person you're going to marry and kiss for the rest of your life. And so I just think that's really special and important. You'll just have to discern it for yourself. However, I will say I don't personally believe that 16-year-olds and younger should have their first kiss. I don't think it's an appropriate age until you are until you can fully understand it and how important it is and things of that nature. Usually 16-year-olds and younger tend to base things off of emotions and hormones and things of that nature. So when you get a little older and you actually understand the importance of it, I don't actually know your age, I'm just speaking in general, I would really ask yourself why you don't want to wait. Is it because of peer pressure, because everyone else is doing it? Is it because is it going to actually lead you closer to God? What would be your reason? You would have to discern that. But it's important to understand that the reason should really be a just reason. It needs to be reasonable. Okay, our next question is, your response to society always being stricter on women being pure and forgetting about men. The issue is, I don't know if I can completely agree with that, due to the fact that many women are praised for dancing half naked on a dance pole during the Super Bowl. Or how about all the women who are dancing immodestly and are wearing barely anything in music videos, TV shows, and advertisements? All of these people are praised for what they do. Immodesty is at an all-time high right now for women and men, and I think both sides are to blame. Men tend to have immodesty of the mind, so they tend to participate in immodest jokes. They tend to have impure thoughts, things of that nature. Women have a similar issue, but it's more about the physical aspect, about their appearance. If they are actually, I guess, attractive to society, to men, and things of that nature. At the end of the day, we can all honestly point fingers and play the blame game as to who gets restrictions for modesty and pureness, etc. But I do actually put a lot of emphasis on women, because if women step up and begin to be ladies again, as in they have their standards, they are feminine, they demand respect, the men then will rise up to the occasion and become providers, protectors, and dads again. And I'm not saying that for everybody. Obviously, we're always going to have some people that don't want responsibility and want to stay in their old ways, and that's fine. But I do believe that women hold the key to society. Okay, our next question is how to handle dating when one discovers they have unwanted SSA. Good question. For those that don't know, SSA stands for same-sex attraction. So I cannot tell you anything from my own life because I've never struggled with this, though I do have friends that have. Maybe I should have one of them on the show sometime, and they could help with any of you that struggle with this. I do believe it is really important to get your faith life in order first, to become right with God and understand that maybe God isn't calling you to date. He could be calling you to celibacy. That's not for everyone, of course. There are some people who are called to get married who do struggle with SSA. However, I would suggest talking with a priest about this. I feel like he could really give you more insight and points and tips and things to really help you in this area of your life. But that's also because I don't know you personally. I don't know you as a person. I've never met you before. And so maybe you struggle with certain things within SSA, and because I don't know you, I'm not sure of those things. So I think it would be really beneficial for you to speak with a spiritual director, a priest. If you have a confessor, a confessor would be ideal because they would know you best. But yeah, I really do think that talking with a priest would be a really great option for you. Okay, our next question is, what age do you think I should start looking into dating guys? From my personal experience, I do not believe anyone should date until they are at least 18 or in college. Now hear me out before I have like an explosion of people being like, well, I met my boyfriend when I was in high school. I did too. But we also went through a lot of issues that we probably wouldn't have made it through if it was not for God. So, hear me out. I don't believe it is really realistic to date in high school because you are only there for 4 years of your life. And through those 4 years, you are with the same exact people. And once college hits and people start moving away, some people don't always go to college. You know, Luke went to community college and I do college online. But most people do move away to college, and therefore those long distance relationships that were based off of high school hormones and just excitement and things like that rarely last. I know some people who do go to different colleges, etc., and they do end up having a long distance relationship that works, and they get married and they have kids and it's beautiful. That is few and far between though. It's very rare that that actually happens. I think it's great to keep high school dating free, mainly because you're going to be having more stress over picking colleges and doing well in school and hanging out with friends. You don't need a relationship issues. You know, if you guys have the relationship issues and things like that, you don't need that drama. You really don't. Also, don't go to college just because the person you like is going to that same college. That can form resentment and you will be stuck on campus with the person in case you guys break up or something. That'll be a whole mess. You won't actually be able to enjoy college if you're constantly caught up in a relationship and you didn't want to go to that college to begin with. Maybe you wanted to be something else. And then if you guys break up or something of that nature, you're going to have some type of resentment towards that person because of the fact you moved to that college and you didn't actually want to go there to begin with, but you did it so your relationship could stay together, etc. It's a mess. So do what you need to do for yourself. That is so important. And if your significant other is truly a person of virtue, they will want what is best for you as well. And if you come together after those 4 or 5 years of college, great. Or if you can keep that long distance relationship, great. Maybe you both want to go to the same exact college for the same thing or for different things, but that is both of your guys' dream college. Great. But if that is true, that is amazing, okay? But if it's not, don't waste your time. Next, we have one of my friends, Maria, and she says, I'd love for you to talk about natural family planning. I love natural family planning. I truly believe it is the best way to plan a family. I'll give a brief description just for those of you who don't know. Natural family planning is basically when a husband and wife charts the wife's cycle to know when she is most fertile and when she is not. This is very beneficial when planning a pregnancy, wanting to get pregnant, or family, whatever it might be. It's also really good for reproductive health benefits. However, I want to make this very clear. NFP is not Catholic birth control. It is not to prevent a life from coming into this world, and it is not to be used to avoid having a child. Okay, anyway, so there are a lot of differences in NFP. There's a lot of different types, and I could probably go into a whole video about it due to the fact that they are actually TMI. I'm probably not going to go into detail now, but I can list off some of the benefits for NFP for you guys, and then if you want to branch off, do your own research, that would be awesome. Otherwise, I will make a video about this eventually. So here's some of the benefits. It values the child. It honors God's design for married love. It promotes marital chastity. It's shared responsibility between the husband and wife. It supports reproductive health and encourages respect and acceptance of the total person. So I think those are beautiful, and I absolutely love NFP. I think it's a beautiful way to plan a family. And if you guys are curious about it, I will link a thing in the description below that can kind of give you more information. Okay, our next question is setting boundaries in a relationship. Good question. The first thing I want to say is basically what I said in the long distance relationship question, which is it needs to be mutual. You both need to agree on these boundaries. It cannot be one-sided, and the other person who you're trying to create these boundaries with, maybe they have some boundaries of their own they would like to lay down. But it's really important that you reiterate that it needs to be both of you. Both of you need to want these boundaries, otherwise it's not going to work, because the other one will constantly be violating those boundaries, and that's just not good. The next thing I'm going to say is sit down with them and have a conversation about it. Don't just come out of the blue and be like, you can't do this anymore, and we're not doing that anymore. Actually sit down with them, hold hands, and look at them in the eye. Sit across from each other. This is really important in relationships, especially if you're having an argument. Make sure you have eye contact and you guys are listening to each other. Again, the listening, you guys need to be able to hear each other, but not just that, but you also understand each other. That is very important. Don't try to talk at each other. Don't talk over one another. Wait for the other person to finish. Acknowledge what they said and then say what you need to say. But do not be talking at each other. Make sure you guys have that understanding, because boundaries can sometimes, for certain people, be seen as, oh, they don't like me anymore, or I've done something wrong. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe to an extent, but we really want to have that clear communication that this is more beneficial for both of you in your relationship in the long run. It'll grow both of you closer to God, and in general, your relationship will grow in virtue and holiness, which is what you guys should want. So discuss your reasons with them and describe to them how these boundaries will help you guys grow in holiness towards God, and just in general, how boundaries are really important. Okay, our next question is, I feel like you can't be a saint without living a life of celibacy, like marriage prevents it. Thoughts? I don't agree with this at all. I think you're forgetting two of the most amazing saints who were married together, Our Lady and Saint Joseph. Of course, they were both virgins, 100%, so I'm going to give you a list of saints to research who were both parents and amazing parents. So, Get ready for the list. All right, number 1, Saint Monica, the mother of Saint Augustine. This was a holy woman who was married to a very pagan man. He was an awful man, actually, now that I think about it. He raised Augustine in like sex things, and it's not good. But she was a holy woman. I mean, she was amazing, so definitely research her. The next one I would suggest is Saint Gianna Molla. Am I saying that right? Molla? I always get confused about her last name, how it's pronounced, but I'm pretty sure it's like that. The third one is Blessed Charles of Austria. The next one is Saint Elizabeth. This would be the mother of Saint John the Baptist, okay? The next one is Saint Stephen I of Hungary. The next one is Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton. I actually love her. And the last one is Saint Louis Martin. I just want to reiterate here, you do not need to be celibate to be a saint, okay? It's not true. Wow, you guys have great questions today. Okay, our next question is, what traits should we look for in a good Catholic guy? I love this question. So the first thing I would suggest is getting the consecration to St. Joseph. This is a 33-day consecration. I just did it because it was just the solemnity of St. Joseph, and it was amazing. I've always loved St. Joseph, but I just learned so much more about him, and I love him even more now. So get the book. You don't technically have to do the consecration, but I highly, highly suggest it anyways. St. Joseph is just such a powerful protector and provider. I would highly suggest it. However, you don't need to, but that book in general describes what you should be looking for in a Catholic man. We basically are looking for St. Joseph. In other words, you're looking for someone who is a protector, a provider, not just materialistically in houses and work and money, but also spiritually. That is so important. If you get the book, it goes a lot more in depth, etc., but I highly suggest you look for someone who has the virtues and, you know, just the drive of St. Joseph, being a dad, a protector, a provider, spiritually and physically. Okay, our next question is, I have SSA, same-sex attraction, but I'm single/celibate. That's not a sin, correct? Correct. That is not a sin. Actually, having SSA is not a sin. Being attracted to the same gender is not a sin. It is only when you act on that that it becomes a sin. Let me give an example, just if you need an example. Let's say you are being tempted into gluttony, okay? Temptation itself is not a sin. But if you act on that temptation and you indulge yourself and become gluttonous, that is a sin. So hopefully that clears that up. No, same-sex attraction in itself is not a sin, only when you act on that. That is when it is a sin. Okay, our next question is, what do you think of courting? I think courting should come back. Boundaries, question mark. Yes. 100%. I am totally with you. I feel like courting could honestly solve all of our dating issues. I really, really do. Because through courting, you get to know your significant other's parents, life, etc. But you don't do it with the expectations of anything sexual or pleasurable. You do it because you love that person and you truly want to get to know them better. And that is why I think courting is so amazing. Courting also sets the standard high for dating, and unfortunately a lot of people don't want to meet those standards anymore. Just like I said about women, if women become ladies again, the men will rise to the occasion and they will meet their standards. Unfortunately, some people just don't want to put that work in that requires them to raise their standards, to really put themselves together as a person and really know what they want in a partner and what they are willing to get. Because a lot of times people forget this, but when we're looking for a partner, when we're looking for a husband or a wife, as women, we aren't specifically looking for men for our own, I mean, obviously we want men who are our best friends and we get along with and everything like that, but what we're really looking for is someone who will be a good dad to our future children. That is our responsibility, to look after those children. And if the person you are dating is not a good dad, or you don't believe they will be, it's probably not a good idea to continue pursuing that relationship. So I think courting is an amazing idea, and we should totally bring that back. Okay, next up, am I crazy for thinking that sex should only be done to procreate? Kinda, just a little bit. Sex should stay in marriage. I want to just emphasize that. So sex should be in marriage. However, sex is about the bonding of husband and wife. So it is for pleasure. The Catholic Church is totally fine with that. Like, they're just like, yeah, awesome. But it's also for procreation. It is for the bonding and for procreation, not just one or the other. Okay, and our last question is, what is it that you can get from one gender that you can't get from the other? Good question. I think it's important to remember that only women can have periods, only women can give birth, and only women can get pregnant. Very important to remember. Men, they tend to think of things more logically. They're not emotionally driven. I mean, today, a lot of them are, unfortunately. Most of them, though, good men, are usually logically driven. Women are more emotionally driven. This is really important because we need that balance. Otherwise, it starts kind of this mental illness of disassociation. Let me explain. So, you have a child. Just imagine you have a child, okay? And that child falls off and scrapes his face up or something, okay? The dad is gonna be like, all right, come on, let's go. Let's just, whatever, it's fine. But the kid is like, no, wait, like, I'm in pain. Like, I want to be, I guess, acknowledged that I'm in pain. Like, I want this to be acknowledged. The mother is willing to kiss the boo-boo, make sure that they're good, give them a snack, an ice pack, popsicle. They have that maternal sense that men do not have. Now, unfortunately, a lot of men are feminized these days, and if you ever see men on TV or on social media or whatever, they're very feminine. They're usually the joke in sitcoms and things, and it's so stupid. It is so important that we have those differences because mothers can offer things that fathers can't. Women can offer things men can't, and men can offer things women can't. A lot of times we are pitted against each other in this society. They're constantly like, well, we can do this better than you, and you can do that better than us, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, y'all are missing the point. We complement each other with our differences, okay? And that's beautiful, and that's amazing, and that's why we need each other, okay? Everyone wants to talk about, what men can do that women can't and everything, and I'm like, but look at what we can do. Look at what men can do and how it complements us, and look what we do and how it complements men. I don't want you women to feed into these lies that society tells you, okay? Your fertility is beautiful. It is a gift. Your femininity shouldn't be covered up. And I mean true femininity, not this toxic feminazi stuff you see going on these days, okay? And men, don't feed into the lies of society that masculinity is weak. It is not weak. And women, real women, we want masculinity. We want that. We feed off of it. It is so attractive. That is so important to us, especially men that are willing to pick up their faith life and lead the family in the rosary, to church, etc. Men who are strong in their faith is so important to us. That is one of the most important things, because men who lean on God, they are strong. And then the women can lean on the men and the children lean on the woman, and together they are powerful because their foundation is Christ. So that, I want to say, like, obviously there's a lot more differences, but that is basically what I am going to throw out there. That's my 2 cents on it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to get to as many questions as I could, but a lot of them were also repetitive, so most of the ones I answered should answer your questions as well. So hopefully those kind of help in that aspect. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!